Hello, everyone. You're watching SK Live. I'm your host, Indranil Basu. Today, we have a legendary ace billiard and snooker champion, world champion, Pankaj Advani with us. So good to see you, Pankaj.
Hi, Anil. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
No, it's such a pleasure, and you look so fit, young. I mean, you don't look old at all. I mean, what's the secret?
I don't think I'm old still. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
living in denial. I mean, 35 is sort of mid-age, but middle age, but I feel like, I'm still running on 20, 21, 22.
because I remember meeting you face to face almost more than a decade ago, and the way you looked that time and the way you look right now, I don't feel it. In that way. I was saying that you don't look old at all. You're getting younger.
Honestly, I think I really feel like, probably there's a message also for the youngsters. I feel like, abstaining totally from all the vices like alcohol, smoking, and stuff has really helped because that keeps you very refreshed and young and light and alert. And
Yeah,
all these substances that we consume, and obviously drugs is in the news, for the for whatever reasons, as we know
yeah,
it.
yeah.
All of these substances really alter your judgment and thinking. And for a sports person, you need to be really clear on what you think and how you approach the game. And also that adds years to your life because I'm
Absolutely.
35. And a lot of people have said I don't look it, so it's
That's
all
good.
because of the fact I don't touch wood. It's
Yeah.
all because I
You
don't
know,
consume these substances.
no, really. And someone who has won 23 world titles, I mean, and still counting. What an achiever. What an achiever.
I mean, I'm fortunate, I'm blessed. I've had a really good team, very supportive family, um, educational institutions, my school, college. Everybody has just been a part of my success. I can't say that it's only mine alone.
No, but I mean, to be able to, I always discuss this with my guests who come, all are distinguished people. It's easy to go up there, but it's tough to stay on. And you've stayed on with so much of authority, so much of dignity. Those elements are so important for a sportsman. And you've done it, sportsmen and women.
Very true, and really it's not just about winning. A lot of people think that, okay, winning at any cost and whatever it takes, fine, it's great. You can make all the sacrifices. And for me personally, I don't think there's sacrifice because I love doing what I do.
Yeah.
A lot of sports persons feel like it's torture to train or to go through the physical fitness regime and all of that stuff and waking up early in the morning. But if you're really passionate about it, you'll never feel like it's hard work. You'll feel like it's joy, it's pleasure. It's because you love doing what you do.
Yes.
So in that sense, it keeps you also motivated for a long time because you're passionate. You want to evolve continuously. And as you said, dignity and integrity, all these things are very important because why do people get attracted to sport? Because of the different qualities and different approaches that you get to see when
Yes.
when a sports person is performing. Some people like aggressive sports persons, some people like calmer ones. Some styles are appreciated more than the others. So it brings out a lot of elements and different dimensions of human behavior.
Absolutely. And the best part is, stay away from pressure. Sports is supposed to be sort of, it gives you expression of freedom. You go out there, express yourself. So where is that pressure? What comes into it? I sometimes feel, because as a child, we all went out to play cricket, football, whatever sport. But the real essence of playing a sport was to go out and, feel free, run around, fall on the ground, get up. So that spirit, diminishes as you go up. So how did you manage that bit? The pressure, the expectation. How did you manage that?
Very true, actually, because see, there are two ways sports can be played. One is, in terms of just as a recreational hobby, just to pass time, and the other is obviously professionally. So when you get into the professional space, like many of us have done, then it becomes a lot tougher to deal with those things. But you learn with experience how to handle those emotions, the gamut of emotions and experiences you go through. Learn how to handle victory and defeat, uh, and take it in your stride. Even victory, a lot of us, many of the time it just goes into our head and we feel like, okay, now we won one big medal, one big championship, and that's it, we're going to relax a bit. But that's not how sports works. You've got to keep at it. And
Absolutely.
I just feel like if you enjoy the pressure and you look forward to those tense, thrilling moments, like, in a movie, we have a thriller movie. right? You're waiting for the climax. So similarly in sport, if you're excited that you're going to be part of something that will bring out a lot of pressure and a lot of tense moments, but at the same time it's thrilling to be part of that match and competition, then you would probably tend to do better under pressure. But a lot of people try to shy away from it and say, you know what, I don't want to be in a close match. Agar last moment pe kuch hua, main haar jaunga, ye wo. So that attitude will not work in sport. You have to be ready to face the pressure and take it head on and accept that okay, there are times I'm going to lose. There are times also I may come out as a victim.
So it also depends what kind of surrounding you have. When you come back to a surrounding after losing a game, and surrounding which is blaming you, why did you lose? Why did you do this? You went wrong. This in this part of the moment. This stage of the game. So when you have a good environment, also that also helps to become a champion like you, isn't it?
Very true. The people around you matter a
Yeah,
lot. Your family members, your friends, the people who influence you, your coach. Unfortunately, I've had many of them who've been very positive, who've motivated me, who've not only made me a better sports person, but also I think tried to make me a better human being.
yeah,
And when you do the right things, and as you said, dignity, integrity, when those things matter to you a lot, then
yeah.
you also sort of imbibe those qualities from the positive people, get influenced by them, and also put that into your sport, and that reflects in your performance. So I've always mentioned that sport is just not about training, participating, winning or losing. It's not just that. It's about the lessons you take from it. It's about how you grow as an athlete and as a human being.
Absolutely. And your 23 world titles. I mean, do you actually know? Do you still look back and you know what exactly happened in every tournament you played? I think 14 amateur world championship, 4 professional world championship, and Asian championship, Asian Games champion. I mean, you have done everything. I mean, do you actually keep a count and do you remember exactly where you did what in whichever tournament you played and won?
I mean, yeah, well, most of the championships have been open IBSF events, so only the snooker ones have been the non-professional ones.
Yeah.
But remaining the billiards, all of that have been at the highest level. So yeah, I do remember. I have these flashes of memories, and obviously reminisce and reflect on the good times and the victories. It sort of motivates me to then go back and practice and train. Of course, with the lockdown, things have been very staggered and very erratic. So I just feel that whenever I get the time, I go and train. Sometimes if I'm not free, sometimes I'm with folks and guests coming over. Of course, with social distance. So but yeah, it's good to just remember all those times. I do remember each and every one of the finals at least. But
Okay.
don't ask me in depth what is it that I did each of those finals because there are too many.
I know it's too many, and as I said, it's still counting. One of my friends, his fellow journalist from Calcutta, Shukondo Sen, was telling me that what is remarkable about you, about Pankaj Advani, is that you have excelled in a sport which is being dominated by Europeans. If you look back, if you turn the pages of history, it's only been the Europeans who have dominated the sport, and someone from India going there and showing the might. It's quite a moment for all of us.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Those very kind words from your friend. Um, but this game actually was invented in India and by the Britishers in
Yeah,
Jabalpur way
yeah,
back, a few hundred years ago. But unfortunately, after that, UK became the hub for the game. China
yeah,
has taken over a bit, and then that was for snooker. And then billiards, England and Australia took over. They produced some great players. But in billiards, we've always had a very rich tradition, and the legacy has been carried forward right from the time of Wilson Jones to Michael Ferreira to Geet Sethi, and then of course few of us, in the 2000s who took over. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, because a lot of the tournaments, big prize money events are held abroad. It's difficult for the Asians to go out there and play in Europe because you have to then settle down over there for 8 months in a year. So, in that sense, yes, we have definitely made breakthroughs, and I just hope that the federations can also look at televising the sport in India and making India one of the major hubs for billiards and snooker. That way we will have a lot more youngsters play the game, a lot more people attracted to the sport, a lot more people who will understand what billiards and snooker is all about.
yeah, absolutely. And television is the best medium. even though it's getting very digitalized, the entire consumption. And we are doing an interview on a digital platform, for instance. It's
Yeah.
every yeah. So it's time is changing, and especially this time. But coming back to your amateur, you were winning so many amateur tournaments, world championships. Then you went to professional in 2012. So tell us, how then you again came back and played a few amateur tournaments, and you're still playing amateur tournaments. So can you just tell us how it works for a layman to understand how Pankaj Advani goes there and comes back? And
So basically, there are two bodies that govern, govern Q Sports, Billiards and Snooker, IBSF, and the World Snooker Limited, which is in the UK. So the World Snooker in the UK takes care of the pro tour, as they say, the main
yes,
tour,
yes,
which is predominantly actually ruled by the UK players, because everything happens over there. All your qualifying tournaments, everything. So you have to be based in England and in parts of Europe, and then travel to China whenever there are tournaments in China. So basically, it's UK and China. And then you have the IBSF events, which are the non-professional events. But so back in 2003, when I won my first IBSF World Snooker title, it had a few professionals in it, and then the rules sort of changed. But the main point is that if you win the IBSF World title, you get to go and play in England for a couple of years.
yeah,
So I only took that opportunity in 2012.
yeah,
And I thought, okay, it's just a way to just gain more exposure in the game and just see what that circuit is about. I enjoyed playing. I learned a lot. But then I said, you know what, I can't be here all my life. It depends from person to person. Some people are okay staying in England for 5, 10 years and say, okay, fine, let me just give it a full-fledged shot at it. But I felt like, okay, I've done enough. I've, made my mark over there. I've made my presence felt. I want to come back home now. And then I started playing the IBSF tournaments again, which are the non-professional snooker events.
yeah.
But in billiards, everything is open. So billiards, there's no such bifurcation, or if you're playing an IBSF World Championship, you're playing with everybody involved.
Good,
You
yeah,
know, so in
yeah.
snooker, there's a little bit of a sort of a separation between the two circuits, but the competition is very very tough in both championships. So just to give you an example, the only person who actually won the IBSF World Snooker Championship was Obi Agarwal from India in 1984. And then it took us 19 years before I actually went on to win it in China in 2003. So that's how difficult the IBSF snooker championships are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And snooker and billiards came to your life as early as you were 12 years old. I mean, tell us about that bit. Did you try playing any other sport other than snooker? Did you try cricket, football, TT?
I was pretty good at a few of those sports, basketball, TT, cricket, badminton. But when I took up Q Sports, I knew there was something more, because I'll tell you what happened. I was following my older brother Shri to a snooker club near our house.
Yeah.
And I used to just watch him play every day with his friends. I was actually 10 years old when I started playing this game.
Okay. Sorry.
And during the holidays, after 3 weeks, I wasn't allowed to play, but I said, listen, I want to try one shot.
Yeah.
So I took the cue, got my stance in, bent down, took the aim and struck the ball straight when the ball went into the pocket. The first shot ever that I played on a pool table. So that's really how my journey began. But when you know that at the first attempt itself you got it right, that means there is something that really attracts you to it. And I felt like it was a gift, and I was so fortunate to have discovered this talent and this gift early in my life, because some people take ages to know what they're really good at.
No, they say it's always someone in the family or someone in the surrounding. They identify the talent, and they say in morning shows the day. So someone like you who could realize that this is where my talent lies. So one has to be special to have that kind of a capability to understand oneself at that age when you're 10. That's why you are a champion.
I mean, I just love doing it. I love going to the snooker club, and then obviously I wanted to take this game up more seriously. So I went to the Karnataka State Billiards Association. I found my coach Arvind Savur, who till date hasn't charged me a penny for coaching me, and he taught me so much about the game. I don't think I would have been half the player I am if it weren't for his guidance and mentoring. So fortunately, I've had really supportive people. My school, college, everybody, they gave me leave of absence. I didn't have to attend classes that much. Go trade, come back, do a crash course, do your exams. Fortunately, I was a good student as well. And I also felt that playing a game like snooker and billiards, my concentration levels are very high, because when you get down on the table, you're only focused on one thing. Similarly, you're in the school, you're in the class, or you're studying, you're taking tuitions. Your grasping ability, your focus, your concentration is spot on. So I think this game really helps in all of that as well.
Does this game also teach you to become humble? Your humility is something really very striking.
Every sport, honestly, Daniil, not just cue sports, a lot of people talk about different sports being a gentleman's game, but actually, honestly, cue sports is a gentleman's game. Not because of our dress code, not because of the fact that we're not a physical sport, but because of the fact that there is, when you look into the etiquette of the sport, there are so many small, small things that one has to keep track of. For example, you can't stand in front of the table when a player is playing his shot because if you're in his line of sight, you're disturbing him. So, things are you can't make any noise when he's playing, you're disturbing him. So many things. So I think snooker and billiards is truly a gentleman's sport. And if those who play the game and who've played it at a competitive level will understand what I'm exactly saying.
Pankaj, last week, in fact, last Thursday, Dr. Tharu was there on SK Live. And I asked him, I started my interview by saying, is cricket a gentleman's sport? And then last Sunday, this actor come rugby player, Rahul Bose was there. He said, you can't address any sport like a gentleman's sport. Even women are also playing. So he made a very valid point, and I said sorry. I should have I mean billiards because even ladies are also
Of
into.
course, of course, of
So
course, of course. Well, obviously, the context in which we're saying gentlemen's sport is, the fact that we're all well behaved and we follow the rules and the manners and etiquette. But obviously, there are ladies now, and in fact, ladies are doing very well, across all sports in India,
so
and
what could
even.
be what could be the expression if it's not gentleman's sport? So it
Ooh.
could be.
You're the journalist. Yeah, I'm sure you'll find a better word for it.
I'm discussing this with you. How what could be that word to actually? You can't say gentle sport.
You
you know.
can't say that as well. No, sport
Yeah,
is
yeah,
never gentle. Trust me, it can be very brutal and harsh. I'm not talking physically, even emotionally, mentally as well. I think it's a
absolutely.
refined sport. That's how I put it across. It's a refined sport. Again, it's not a sport refined not in the sense that it's for the elite or the rich. Refined in terms of the fact that you have to actually be a refined human being to be able to understand the nuances and to be able to develop those skills and further develop your skills at a high level. So yeah, I
You
call
know,
Q a refined sport.
Yes, refined sport. Yeah, we will do that only. But cricket is a refined sport. Everything should be refined right now. We should change the definition. It's time. But coming back to your ability, you're the only player to have won, long and short formats of snooker in the world. Uh, that's also quite a commendable achievement in someone who could adjust to different uh, sort of game. So that is quite commendable also. Can you run us through that bit also when you the long and the short of it?
Sure, sure. I think if anybody asks me what is your biggest achievement, I
Yeah,
would tell them in the sport technically. I would just tell them that it's the fact that I've been able to excel in both billiards and snooker. And just for the lay, persons out there who are watching this, listening to this, billiards is played with three balls, yellow, white, and red. And
yeah,
snooker
yeah.
is played with, I think it's
20,
there in your background, the 22 balls and 15 reds, as you can see in your background with
yeah,
all the color balls, yellow, green, brown, blue, pink, black, and the white ball. So snooker is definitely visually more appealing and probably a little more popular. But billiards is like the mother sport. It's been invented way back, and the Britishers, the Australians, Indians, and now even Southeast Asia, Singapore, Myanmar, Thailand, all of them play it at a very high level, and even certain parts of Europe. So for me, it's been the shift from billiards to snooker that has been very difficult. And a lot of seniors, a lot of players, accomplished players, said that it's impossible to excel in both, and they said that I will have to choose one, like everybody else did. Whether it's the Indian top players, whether it's the foreign players, everybody specialized in one. And I said, you know what, let me just defy logic or, break barriers because we are so set in our thinking sometimes that we have to follow certain patterns or we just have to specialize in one sport. I said, why can't I specialize in two? So when I won my first world title in 2003 in China, the IBSF World Snooker, uh, I thought, okay, let me now refine my billiards game. And in 2005, I went on to win a lot of billiards events, the World Championships, the Asian Billiards, and all, because of which I got the Khel Ratna in 2006.
Yes.
And I was the only one. I didn't share it with four other people, by the way. So, so no, I appreciate the ministry for what they've done. I think their intentions are good. But we'll probably come to that later if you do want to ask me about that.
Yeah.
But back to billiards and snooker, that's been my biggest challenge. And then, as you said, there are short and long formats. Not only in snooker, there are the short and long formats in billiards as well. So
Yes.
it's like, I sort of compare myself to a versatile actor who can probably do romance, who can do action, who can do comedy, who can also be a villain, to just don
And
very different
and also play character roles.
and play character. Yeah.
Yes.
So I've learned how to be very flexible and adapt to different kinds of formats and conditions. And I think for me, that's been my USP, I would say, if anybody had to ask me.
Yeah, but what are you doing to popularize the game in India? I mean, you're a brand ambassador. We've seen a lot of legends in the past, but you have excelled in the sport. You've actually become such a big example in the country. So, what are you doing to popularize the game?
Well, to be honest, this is the job of our federation. In my limited capacity as a player, because I'm still playing competitive, at least for the next 10, 15 years,
Yes,
uh,
yes,
we've started an initiative called the CSP, Q Schools by Pankaj Advani, where we want to take this game to school students and at the grassroots levels promote the game, because a lot of youngsters love playing the sport or they watch it on television, on streaming, but they don't have access to those facilities. So we just want to provide them with those facilities first, and teach them the game, and maybe, who knows, we can create a future champion, a champion in the making. We never know where their talent lies, because many schools, especially international schools, have facilities for other sports, and they're open to also introducing Q sports as one of their sports, even as part of their curriculum.
yes.
And that has been done in the past. So
Yeah.
we're targeting that. Of course, with the coronavirus coming in, and the last 1 year has been difficult for us. So we've barely managed to make progress on that. But we will definitely take it to many more schools in the coming years.
Lovely. It's a lovely initiative, because you're really setting the right example, and the fact that it's being treated as a recreational sport, something which that perception has to change. You can also become a Pankaj Advani if you can take it seriously and spot your talent, and the mind is, of course, your mind is, of course, it's the best mirror. If your mind can tell you you can do it, you can do it. That's how it is. That's how champions are made, isn't it?
Champions, yeah, of course. Champions are made not because of only their own ability, but I keep saying this is because of the environment, because of the support, the facilities, everything. So, in India, we need a holistic approach actually towards developing an athlete like China. But of course, we can't follow the China model because they just catch the youngsters, throw them in the academy, and then everything is taken care of. So, with something like the Australian model or the US model, which probably will work better for us. But for that, we also need more funding. The government needs to also provide more funds. So, yeah, billiards and snooker is actually a very competitive sport, and it's very, very skilled. As you know, how skillful you need to be to excel in the sport.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that's where I feel the federation can do a little more in making the sport more visible, and using the top players like us to go out there and inspire a generation of youngsters to take up Q sports. But I'll also tell you this, that every year the national championships attract over 1,000 participants, and those numbers are steadily increasing, which means that there is interest. It's just that now we need to have a better structure for Q sports. Go to the respective states. The state governments have to be involved. The state associations have to be involved in the respective states, and then have one proper center, an academy where everybody comes in. All the top national players train and then go out for international events. So if we have a better structure in our Q sports system, I think we will definitely see it being taken up by a lot more youngsters.
But when you say we can't follow China, and we should follow the US and the Australian way, so what do you exactly mean? I mean, the best way to do it is throw them young. That's how, it should be done. But why do you think China model can't fit into India?
Because China is communist, number one, so their ways are very different. If they see that you have a certain ability, even if you don't enjoy doing that, they will
They'll
just
force.
throw it there. They will
Okay.
force you to play that sport. Say for example, if I had to swim or play cricket, I probably wouldn't be passionate about it, you know, because that's not my calling,
Yeah.
right? I may have been good at it, or maybe physically I'm up there, so they feel like okay, fine, he'll do well. So it's like a factory, They're very robotic and mechanical in their approach. And
Yeah.
personally, I've never been a fan of a very robotic and mechanical approach for sports people. Discipline is very important. Having a routine is great, but
Absolutely.
you also need to be very open-minded when you're playing a sport because there are endless possibilities. You know, uh, and that's why people love sport because there's so much of drama in it. For example, who would have thought that Djokovic would be default at the US Open, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody in their wildest dreams would have thought that,
Yeah.
but it happened. So you have to be prepared for all sorts of outcomes. So next time you will never ever sort of hit the ball in anger, even if it's probably into the stands. You'll be very, very cautious. So we learn so many things from sport like that, which we will never see in our training. So that's why I feel like if you follow the US and Australian way, where you have centers, you have academies, you have proper funding, and if you are talented in the sport and you wish to take it up, and your federation sort of pushes you there and says, okay, fine, this is where you can hone your skills, hire coaches, get them from abroad, and train them at a particular facility. Then you develop champions and they start enjoying and they want to do it, which is when it'll come from the heart.
There's a saying which shows that you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. So, so it's an obviously there in the Asian Games, snooker, billiards. But what do you think? Why is it that Olympics doesn't have? Because Olympics, of course, all they promote power sports, and snooker is not a power sport. So, what are your thoughts? When can that happen in at the highest level? Snooker being played at the Olympics.
I think before the Olympics, it's unfortunate that we were taken off the Asian Games, and that's because Korea organized the Asian Games in 2014. In 2006 and in 2010, I was fortunate to have been part of both those Asian Games and having won both gold medals back to back. I thought it would be a good time to actually go for a hat trick. But me. Besides, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about myself. It's just unfortunate that billiards and snooker and cue sports was excluded from the list of sports in the Korean Asian Games in 2014. Likewise, even chess was taken off that list.
Yeah,
That's because they had some of their own disciplines of sport where they felt they could include and they could win more medals because they felt that in billiards and snooker and chess they have a lesser chance. So every host country has that option of excluding a couple of sports and including some of their own. And unfortunately, Q Sports suffered, the fate of uh, you know being thrown away, and since then we've not gotten back to the Asian Games. So that's very sad because again, billiards and snooker is a global sport. It's played by many countries in Asia, in Europe. So before we get to the Olympics, I think we need to first get back to the Asian Games, and I know that efforts have been made by the international bodies. In fact, China, I think, was supposed to host the next Asian Games. So I don't know if it's going to be included because China is again big in Q sports. For the Olympics, I feel that the world bodies will have to get together and make a very strong presentation and lobby. But I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be included because it's played by so many nations. It's extremely competitive, and it's been part of the Asian Games and the World Games and well, not Commonwealth, but again, Commonwealth is a truly Commonwealth sport because England, Australia, and the Commonwealth nations play this game. So it's up to the world bodies, it's up to our governments also to push for this.
but I somehow feel that IOC and all that they are too obsessed with these power sports. They want to bring in more power sports than these, like a cue sport or a chess, which is slightly sad. I mean, when you have so much of following, so many countries playing, you should give. And when they talk about cricket to be included in those, multi sports events, and why not cue sports? I mean, this is what That will give a lot of momentum, a lot of popularity to the game, at least in India. I mean, when you have a ready-made champion in Pankaj Advani.
I agree with you. I feel that, sport is not just about running. It's not just about being, hefty or powerful or strong.
Yeah.
It's about this also.
Yes.
It's about, yeah, the 5 inches between your ears, because this is what you have to use the most. Without your brain, if the brain doesn't send a signal, you can't box, you
Yeah.
can't hit the ball, you
Yeah.
can't swing, right? So many things you can't do. It's your hand-eye coordination at the end of the day. And
Absolutely.
these sports are based on very strong reflexes. Some of them, like golf and billiards and snooker, are a little different from the others, where you set a stationary ball in motion. So that's when you require even more focus and even more concentration, because you are dictating the pace of play rather than somebody else dictating it and putting pressure on you, and then you have to react. So most sports are reactive, and ours you have to be actually proactive. So every sport needs to be appreciated in India, but I don't think people have gone into so much depth to understand what dimensions or what facets it actually brings out of our personality. We need our power sports, don't get me wrong. Of course, we need to be strong, we need to be fit, and that fit India movement is great. Everybody needs to run and be fit. But we also need to be fit in the mind. And that's
Yes.
why mental health has become such a big issue. That's why you see, actors talking about it. I mean, obviously, I don't want to comment on the Sushant Singh case, because we've spoken too much about it, and the CBI and everybody will do what it needs to do to figure out who played foul in that. But mental health is such a big issue in every field, whether it's Bollywood and sport, and I don't think we're addressing the real issues. And I think a sport like billiards and snooker, or even chess, or even any sport which is precision based, will help us deal with those issues. Because once you played, you'll sort of grow and you'll understand different kinds of emotions, which unfortunately we're really not focusing on.
Absolutely. And that mental integration is so important. Even when you're playing snooker and billiards, sort of precision you need, the focus you need. You actually have to hold your breath when you're actually doing your drills. I mean, when you're pushing the ball, I mean, you have to do so much inside your mind, and it's the mind which controls you so much. I mean, this is how it is, and people don't understand the essence of having. Cricket, they call it it's a mind game, right? Why is it
Correct.
called a mind game? Yeah, it's a mind game. It's a mind game. Always a mind game. But as a youngster, when you're growing and everything, uh, who all were your you looked up to some champions? Who all of those athletes in your life then during your younger days?
Uh, when I entered the Karnataka State Billiards Association in Bangalore, I wanted to be coached only by one person. That was Mr. Arvind Savur. So I used to watch him play, and just to share a story with you, an anecdote. I went up to him the first time when I was 11 years old, and I said, "Uncle, please, can you please coach me? Whatever you say, I will do." And he says, "Listen, I'm sorry, I can't, because you're too short. You have to gain a few inches in height." So I was really disappointed that day. I cried. I came back home. I started doing pull ups. I started playing basketball in school just to gain a couple of inches in height. But a few months passed, and it was the end of the year. And he came and told me during the Christmas holidays, he says, "Come, I'll start coaching you." That was the happiest day of my life. So the first person who I really looked up to, and I still look up to in the sport, for any kind of advice, whether it's on the table, off the table, is my coach Arvind Savur. Of course, I've watched the great players Michael Ferreira, Geet Sethi, Yasin Merchant, all stalwarts of our game. And then later on, I started following tennis, and I've been following Federer for many years now.
Okay.
And you said, you talked about dignity, you talked about humility. I think he's the epitome of all of those things.
Absolutely.
Dignity, humility, class, grace, poise, everything. So he's really my idol, and I feel like he's a true ambassador of world sport, not only just tennis but world sport.
This is a great thing about sportsmen and men and women we have in India. Be it Leander Pace, be it Vishwanathan Anand, Sachin Tendulkar, MS Dhoni, Pankaj Advani. These are real champions in everywhere. Rahul Dravid, they're so down to earth. I mean, normal people don't get to interact with them so much as we do. We are journalists, But one common factor is that humility. I really like that. और हिंदी में कहावत है, जिस पेड़ में फल होता है वो झुका रहता है. I was talking to one of your coaches, Mr. Manoj Kothari, yesterday. And he said, I have only one word to say about Pankaj. He's phenomenal.
So sweet. Thank you. No, Mr. Kothari's helped me a lot as well. He's guided me. We've traveled a lot together over the last 10 years. I remember during the Asian Games, he was there by my side. I was down 2-1 in the finals and I was not playing well at all. But, after the match, he says, I couldn't tell you what your faults were because if I had kept telling you what you were doing this, that wrong, you would, as it is, you were tense, you would probably lose it, even more. So he just said, just stay on, you're doing nothing wrong, concentrate, and I ended up winning the Asian Games gold medal coming back from 2-1 down. So I remember some of those moments where he's been really there by my side, and even technically and in terms of the skill, he's really helped me out. So it's very sweet for people to say such nice things, including yourself. I mean,
No,
humility is something we can never achieve, in perfection, but we can only try to get there.
absolutely. I have another senior journalist called, writing on the Facebook saying, "Tell us about your Archiman Bhaduri." He's an old friend, quite a senior journalist also. Tell us about your experience of running for BS5 polls. Do you want to come to administration someday? You want to?
Oh, well, it's a topic that I'm not really keen on discussing right now because, in a way, I've burnt my fingers. That's all I can say. And I think, it's left, the game is best left to the administrators to run and best left to the players to play. So I'd rather be a player for now, maybe 10, 15 years, ahead if I do feel like I need to get into a different role and wear a different hat, then maybe I will get into administration, but not now.
I mean, billiards and snookers, has it changed the way it is played? It was played earlier. Now it's become little fast paced and anyone can beat anyone. That kind of situation has happened. How do you look in the competition level right now?
Um, Back in the day, in the 80s, 90s, even 70s, of course, the formats were a little long. And I guess people had more time. There were not that many forms of entertainment, hardly, any television. But over the years, people's attention spans have become shorter and shorter. And even a sport like cricket had to go the 2020 way. I'm sure if, the IPL didn't happen, probably even cricket would have stagnated in terms of its TRPs and stuff. So every sport has gone the shorter format way, and Q Sports is no different. And which is why I feel like, if at all, Q Sports can be made more visible, and sort of a shortened version can be packaged well and televised, then I think it will attract a lot of youngsters and eyeballs. So yes, definitely the way the game has changed, and you have to be a little more alert. You have to start off very quickly, and that's why, because of the short formats, you will see a lot more upsets. But people like to see that. Every time if the same people end up reaching the top four or the top two, if you have the same winners, it's not fun. So we've learned how to adapt to those different formats. And me being a Leo, I love winning. So I'll do whatever it takes to adapt to those formats and try and be a winner as much as I can. But I also know that you can't win every single time. So you can just try your best and hope for the best.
Yeah, and how many hours do you put of practice to get to that kind of perfection which you display when you're playing at different championships? So how many hours do you put in? I mean, even at this hour when there is lockdown, there's so much of negativity. People are struggling. No one has a happy story. So how do you keep yourself motivated? How do you keep yourself in positive frame of mind? Go out there. You must be having all the facilities at home.
In fact, I don't have the facilities at home.
That is
And coming to the lockdown,
yeah.
I feel like we can actually sort of compare this to a sporting contest where we have an opponent, which is the coronavirus. We're fighting the coronavirus right now.
Yeah.
And we have certain rules we need to play by: social distancing, wearing masks, covering your mouth when you cough or sneeze, avoiding contact and stuff. So if we follow those rules and we play by the book, we have a good chance of defeating it.
Yeah.
if we maintain discipline. But if we don't maintain discipline, and then again, anyway, it spreads so much, we're sort of losing to it. So, but coming back to, the lockdown, uh, so many of us have traveled for the last 2 decades,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I started traveling in 2000 internationally,
Yeah.
and I've not got a break as such from the sport or from traveling. So this is the
Okay.
first time that I've been at home non-stop for 7 months.
Okay.
So sometimes it's another way of looking at saying, okay, fine, it's a welcome change. Who would have thought that we would get a year-long break, right? When we are involved in the heat of competition or training or practicing or competing or fulfilling our professional commitments with sponsors, with media, everybody, we feel like, oh no, now at some point we need a break. Just I just want to sleep, I just want to relax for a few days, and that's it. Now we've got a year-long break. I don't think we should really complain. So, of course, it's been too long, and I do understand why people miss playing a particular sport or competing or doing what it is that they love. But at the same time, it's this is what it is, right? We've got to adapt. We've got to understand that this is the new normal and find ways to work around it. Whether you can keep yourself stimulated. Like for me, I've enjoyed this time with my folks, with my loved ones. Learned a little bit, sweeping, mopping, all of that stuff to contribute to the household work, and of course resume training whenever the lockdown has been lifted, and just hoping that okay, fine, when the vaccine comes, it will come. Until then, we just live the way we have been living, and learn new things and keep ourselves stimulated. So if we read too much into it, saying that, oh, this is so different, and what's happened to the world, and of course I understand there are many challenges and people who have businesses are suffering, the economy is suffering. I understand all of that, but what is the solution? Now it's happened. We can't take back the coronavirus. We can't tell China to not, to just keep the lab shut. It's leaked. It's happened. We just
Yeah.
got to find solutions to work around it.
So, but you don't have a pool, I mean, a snooker table at home, and that is a surprising bit for me. So, where do you actually doing your practice? I mean, how you're going for a walks, your physical training, how you're doing it, how you manage? You must be doing something. You can't be sitting at home and mopping the floor, which is also a very exercise, by the way.
True, true, true. No, I do go for walks, and in fact, I used to go to my friend's place to play. So there's this junior player. She was the junior world champion also from Bangalore. Her name is Varsha Sanjeev, and she's won the senior national titles in the women's category. So I practiced with her for a while. Then I've also started going to a club because Bangalore, they've opened up quite a few things now. So I go to another club to practice as well, and I've been playing for the last 1 month. So even if by chance there's a tournament announced tomorrow, I think I'll be in reasonably good touch to compete.
Oh wow,
But unfortunately, the international body did announce a few days ago that there wouldn't not be any international events up until February end of 2021. So that's unfortunate. But again, you can understand why they've taken a decision like that.
absolutely. And you're someone who's won 14 medals. I was just counting number of medals you have won in your life so far. Padma Bhushan, Khel Ratna, then Arjuna Awards, and the list is endless. I've named only three. So and you talked about that this year they took four. So how do you look at it? Is it trying to be little generous the sports ministry? Is it trying to appreciate athletes from all walks of life? How you're looking this four number?
But there are five people, I think, who received the
Five.
Khel Ratna.
Yeah. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Five.
I
Yeah.
think record what 25 or 27 Arjuna awardees, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
the 20s,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was never that much. So I'll say one thing for sure, that I think the ministry's intentions are good, right? But also we have to understand that back in the day when I won the Arjuna Award in 2004 and then the Khel Ratna in 2006, there were not that many sporting achievers, or there were not that many achievements back then. There were a few great individuals who had excelled, and the point system was very clear. What's happened now is there are two things. One is that there are too many achievers across different disciplines of sport, which is great. It augurs well for Indian sport. Um, but at the same time, there's a huge discrimination between Olympic and non-Olympic sports. right? And somewhere, I don't know where again, cricket figures in the list, of Olympic sports and sort of included in that category. So what happens is that even though you've given 25, 27 Arjuna awards, you've given 5 Khel Ratna awards, there is actually no place for non-Olympic sports. And I'm not just talking about billiards and snooker just because we are the affected lot. I'm not saying that. But I think we need to now introduce different categories of awards. Even, for example, giving an award to the best individual sports person male every year. It could be the
Yeah.
same person winning, or maybe you can win multiple times. Female sports person of the year, the best Paralympian. You can have a separate category for specially abled athletes. You can have a
Absolutely.
special category for non Olympic sports. Probably have 18 Arjuna awards for Olympic sports and 7 for non Olympic sports. But at least have some kind of quota where everybody gets a fair chance to win an award. As far as the Khel Ratna is concerned, I mean, when I received it, I know there was Mahesh Bhupati and Rahul Dravid also who were in contention to receive the
Yes.
award.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if history had to go by to go by the standards that they are today, then they would have given the three of us. But the point is that the Khel Ratna is only given to one exceptional performer for a period of 4 years or 5 years. And back in the day, it was just for 1 year. So those rules also have changed. So I think the ministry just needs to be very clear in its structure and rules as to what it really wants to achieve from these national awards. I don't think their intention is wrong because the whole point is that they're being generous. They've given, if you give one Khel Ratna, you're just giving out a cash award for one, but you're giving for four others, which means that they are generous, no doubt. But I think they just need to now make it more structured and have quotas for different categories of awards instead of just clubbing everything together and saying, okay, fine, we're just giving it out wholesale and everybody, becomes happy and then just neglect the non-Olympic sports, which is again not fair. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to help because I've been involved in sport for 20 years. I can definitely help them make those guidelines.
I hope the ministry people are listening to this interview. Suggestions coming from Pankaj Advani, quite a good one actually. This is how you should make. You should put a system in place so that no one can question it. That is important. And a few days ago, I remember this former Indian pacer. He's a Karnataka pacer, Doda Ganesh. He raised an issue that Rahul Dravid and Anil Kumble never got Khel Ratna award because they are from South India. I mean, that is completely something which is not right. I mean, there is no, I mean, India is not divided in that kind of sentiment. You're from South, I'm from North, I'm from. It doesn't work like that. But that time probably BCCI didn't put so much of importance to Khel Ratna. They didn't take those. I don't know what exactly happened. As you're saying, Rahul Dravid was also there in that list, but he didn't get it. You got it. But
I mean,
how
I'm
do
from the south, so I got it. So it's not like South people have been neglected.
Yeah, I mean, his sentiment was is as if Rahul Dravid and Anil Kumble were neglected. But do you think that was the case?
See, as far as Dravid and Kumble FC are concerned, of course, I have huge respect for them, and they're great performers, and they've done great service to Indian cricket for many years. So, of course, they need to be on that list, no doubt about it. At the same time, I feel like if we're talking about discrimination, we should also address the issue of Olympic and non-Olympic sports, of sports that are in quadrennial events versus sports that are not in quadrennial events. So the discrimination is I mean, there's so many the basis of discrimination can be argued on many other points as well, not just South and North India.
Yes,
Um, so I think and the beauty of sport is that it's fair.
absolutely.
Sport means equal opportunity for all. That's what sport actually means. You cut across all barriers, all of your stereotypes, you cut across caste, creed, color. Everybody comes under one roof. They compete. There's no black, white, no color, no nothing. Right? You don't discriminate, especially in the world of sport. So
Yes,
whether it's the national awards, right, whether it's anything, in terms of even giving attention to different sports, celebrating the achievements of our athletes, we have to be, pretty much neutral. Of course, I understand like a sport like cricket will obviously always garner more attention because it's television friendly and people follow it and understand it. And that's also because of the efforts of BCCI over the last 25 years, 30 years. Similarly, other federations can also take a leaf from their book and promote their sport, instead
absolutely.
of saying, oh, cricket gets everything, right? So It's just a way you look at it and say, okay, fine. If somebody is doing something right, let me follow that model. Let me also take inspiration and try and be as good as them.
Absolutely. And talking about cricket being such a popular sport, people follow the game, they understand the game, and that's why we have a Bharat Ratna given to Sachin Tendulkar. It's quite an icon. There's no doubt about it. But when you see someone like Major Dhyan Chand, he's not been given Bharat Ratna even today. I mean, what are your thoughts? You're a champion yourself. Don't you think he deserves Bharat Ratna?
I'm sure he will be given it posthumously because our national sports day is celebrated, and it's
On his
actually major, yeah, on his, yes,
yeah,
on his birth. So uh, I'm sure he will be given the Bharat Ratna someday. Of course, he should have been given, it earlier. If Sachin Tendulkar has received it, then of course Major Dhyanchand deserves it. Um, um, but again, now if you've given one sports person, so a lot of sports persons now feel, okay, fine, we may receive this award in future, and I understand why these awards are also important because I have certain friends who work in different organizations like railways or the public sector where these awards, even if you get an Arjuna award, you get a promotion, you get a raise in your salary, you get many other benefits from it. So these awards become all more important for uh, athletes across different sports because it can actually give them a huge boost in terms of their financial status and their careers in their companies and jobs. So uh, again, coming back to that, I just feel like if we have a structure, now that we've given the Bharat Ratna to one sports person, I think we should open it up to a few others as well who've been exceptionally good in their sports, not just anybody. And I think
absolutely.
those parameters also will have to be defined over a period of time as to who we need to give the Bharat Ratna to. Maybe once in 3 years we can give it to a sports person, or once in 5 years, anybody who's been exceptional. And similarly with the national awards, just have a proper rule book and say, okay, fine, we'll make everybody happy, but we'll do it in a more structured way.
Your top five sports persons, and I mean, it means it could be men, could be women, which all will be the top four Indian sports person on your list.
Top four,
Top five, sorry, top five, top five.
top five Indian sports persons.
Yeah,
It's a tough one. I mean, obviously, Vishwanathan Anand, Abhinav Bindra for sure on that list.
absolutely.
They have to be there. Uh, I mean, it's a tough list. Leander Pace. Leander
Third,
Pace.
yeah,
Um, I'd also say Geet Sethi
okay.
because I think he sort of took the game to the next level. Of course, Michael Ferrer, Wilson Jones were there, but Geet Sethi definitely. Um, and I'd also, I think, go with a very unusual choice, but I think somebody who deserves a mention over here, Joshna Chinnappa. She's done exceptionally well in the world of squash. And, I just feel like in these sports, these, sports which are not mainstream, considered mainstream in India, it's all more difficult to achieve. Even in cue sports, people don't view it as a very mainstream sport and say, oh, yeah, ye kya sport hai, you just hit the ball, whatever. But they don't know how much of skill and technique is involved in it and focus.
So these are the five names you have. But Pankaj, before
I'd
we
also
let you
like to
go,
include Dhoni in that list, by the way, MS Dhoni.
okay, you have MS Dhoni in that list also.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And it shows a lot of thought has gone into this, huh?
If you ask me off the cuff, so it takes me a little time because there's so many great sports persons. And of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
Major Dhyanchand, you know, probably at the highest level, his name is there. Can't be compared with anybody else.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, just want to know one story, untold story from your side, which left a very positive, impact on your sporting career so far. And you always look back and think, and you smile, and you get a lot of inspiration from that incident. What is that incident?
Hmm. Uh, I mean, there have been so many, people who've come and spoken to me in between matches, which I don't like, by the way. I like to be
Okay.
by myself. Or people spoke to me before and after matches. Um, but I think my coach Arvind Savur once, I was practicing and Just before I left, I was due to take a flight sometime later in the day, and I was practicing in the morning. And uh, I was not doing too well that particular year. But before the national championships, I was just practicing with him, and I said, Uncle, I don't know why I'm nervous. I haven't won much this year, and there's so many good players out there. And at that time, Geet Sethi, Yasin Merchant, and all the stalwarts were still very active and they were going strong. Of course, later on they retired. So it was a case of the youth, whether whether we will take over and defeat the experience, or the experience will still have their say, or will still dominate. So he just told me one thing. He said if you put your head down and play the way you can, he says nobody will come close to you. And I still remember those words. But it's confidence is not something that you can just say it out loud and you'll be confident. It has to come from deep down within.
Absolutely.
Right here, right in the center of your existence, your heart, your soul. And when you feel that confidence from within, then you can even move mountains. And we've all felt that at some stage. But there are times we're also different, and that's what makes us human. You know, uh, many people have come up to me and said, "Oh, how could you miss that simple shot?" And I only say to them that, "Listen, I'm human. I'm going to make errors. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm also going to accept the fact that I'm human and learn from those mistakes and come back stronger." But as you said, that if there's one story or one thing that I remember, it's from my coach Arvind. He says, "If you keep your head down, nobody will come close." And I ended up winning both the national titles that year. So
Wow.
sometimes it just requires that switch, that one person who you really trust, who has been a major part of your life, to tell you, "Listen, you are you can do it. You're the best." It just reinforces that belief, and I think what Arvind uncle has taught me is immense self belief. He's instilled immense self belief in my system, which is why I think I've been able to achieve consistently.
Yeah, that is so remarkable, and it was really a pleasure having you on SK Live. And you spoke your heart out as you the way you play your snooker and billiards, and the way you pocket the balls. It's amazing that your shots, it's so genuine, so honest, so dedicated, so full of dignity, as we talked about at the early in the earlier part of the show. But it's been amazing having you on SK Live, Pankaj. It was
Thank you,
really.
Nanuddin. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
It was so enlightening, to hear your experiences, your exploits uh, there as a sports person, as a champion. Thanks a lot for being on SK Live, Pankaj. Stay
Thank you
safe.
so much.
Stay
Stay
safe.
safe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.